The living room, where the family meets to discuss issues, any issue which may be bothering one of the family members. That's what we do each and every Tuesday on WAC 90.1 FM with Ricardo Mitchell and DJ Aaron 868. We have casual conversations on serious topics, from sports to culture, mental health to economics, relationships to life lessons. Join us each and every Tuesday on WAC 90.1 FM. The Living Room, casual conversations on serious topics.
It's 6 p.m. here in Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know what time it is where you are, but I'm glad to know you're locked on to the true nation station WACK 90.1 FM, where we are
culture crazy.
First and foremost, let's kick this off as we always do, all right? Must give thanks and praises to the Almighty for granting us the gift of life and seeing another day. No matter what time of day it is, you must always
give thanks.
Secondly, we must say thank you to those that went before us, and we are not just talking about our ancestors, the original inhabitants of Trinidad and Tobago, because we all know, accept, reiterate, and say it with chest that Columbus lied, but also to our brother in music, Tony Prescott, where the P this week stands for
Pressure, boy.
Yeah, boy.
Pressure.
First and foremost, let's address the elephant in the room. Over the past 48 hours, the Lesser Antilles, or the Windward Islands, have been passed through, for want of better words, by Hurricane Beryl. It would have started as just Invest 95L last week Friday, and by Sunday evening it was a Category 4 hurricane.
Right.
And it would have passed through the islands and affected Tobago, St. Lucia, Grenada, Carriacou, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, to an extent Trinidad as well, but not severely for Trinidad, right? So our prayers go out there to all the affected families in these islands. And as Ricardo and I always say, don't just send 20 cases of water. Find out how these families actually need help. Because you could send 20 cases, but I have nowhere to store it.
Right.
You could send 30 shirts, but I have nowhere to keep it dry. Find out how to direct the help properly. And trust me, communication will come out. I'm 100% sure. So pay attention to the communication and help how you can.
Yeah.
Because the next side of this is 10 years ago, God was at Trini, and we wouldn't have smell a hurricane. But since 10 years to now, notice the hurricane belt has come closer and closer to the equator. So, the phrase of God being at Trini is one which we should extinguish from our thoughts and our lips. And what we should also start to do is take heed to emergency warnings. Shelter in place means something. It doesn't mean shelter at the bar down the road.
Right. Or lime until it starts to see rain coming.
Because funny enough, and I wanted to make a TikTok about this, but I think this is a more appropriate platform to address it. When the Met Office puts out a weather advisory, right? The color yellow doesn't mean go and drink a carib.
Wow.
I'm just saying. No, I put it out there.
Right.
The color red doesn't mean rush to KFC.
Wow. Okay.
Or not only when you see certain businesses closing and putting out advisory that they're closing and sending the staff home at 8 means that it's serious.
Right.
Let us take heed of these advisories, please. I myself am going to be totally transparent with you, the listeners. I know I'm going on long, Ricardo, to start off.
Hey, you do your thing. You do your thing.
I want to get all these things out early because I know we have another pressing topic to discuss. I myself, and to be totally transparent, realized last week Tuesday night that I am in no way prepared for a disaster.
Okay.
Last week Tuesday night, reach home from the gym, and I sit down watching the end of the cricket. Afghanistan, Australia. And for those of you that can't remember, Afghanistan defeated Australia.
Right.
With some very interesting tactics, I must admit. But hey, all in the name of the game.
Yeah.
But the game ended, and I sat there on my couch, sipping some water, and I felt the legs on my chair start to shake. So hear me, I saying, boy, why aren't you in the gym and you losing weight, boy? Why are you wobbling so?
Right.
And there is me on the chair.
You just
And
in the zone. Yeah.
And the wobbling continued for about 15 seconds, and then wait now, there's an earthquake.
Yeah.
You know what my instinct at that moment was to do? Check my phone
Okay.
to see if people was updating status and tweeting, is an earthquake.
Right.
Not drop cover and anything
on.
like that, you know. And hold on. I sit down on my chair, phone in my hand, scrolling Twitter to see, is that earthquake? So I myself need to do work to be prepared for emergencies. But I ask that we take heed because an earthquake is something which we cannot predict.
Right.
But weather advisories do come out regularly from the Met Office and the Office of Disaster Preparedness. It should have no reason why the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service should be heading up to Charlottesville when there's inclement weather and a hurricane warning to stop Fisherman Fet. That is not something police need to go and do. Take personal responsibility. Because if, God forbid, that hurricane, the eye of the hurricane, passed between the passage of Trinidad and Tobago, we wouldn't be doing like what Maximus Dan say. We wouldn't be jamming still. We'd be picking up pieces of homes and roofs like what took place in Carriacou and Grenada and St. Vincent. If you don't know the program you're listening to, this is The Living Room with yours truly, DJ Aaron 868. I remind you each and every time that culture is my code. And I sit here today alongside my bro with no fro but a lot of flow.
Ricardo Mitchell, the social sage on the global stage.
Let me drink some water after that, boy.
Yeah,
I had to get all that off my chest one time.
Yeah, I understand, Aaron. I was disappointed by a lot of the behavior that we witnessed over the past 24 to 48 hours. Tobago, I mean, come on, guys. Right? I'm not going to single out any particular incident because I don't want to highlight any of the codswallop, any of the nonsense that we witnessed via social media. I also want to point out that I'm a little disappointed in Trinidad too. Because, I mean, you still had to be reading crime headlines in between your weather warnings.
You know it had a murder in Tobago Sunday night?
Yeah, correct. Apparently there was one in Malabar too.
Yeah, so I saw that one.
Right?
But
I mean, come on, guys. Come on. There was... Listen, I believe a lot of people took this particular situation a lot more seriously than many of the other warnings. There's a lot that is happening globally that we may not have paid much attention to in terms of climate change and the impact of global warming. But this was the first time on record that I believe we had a Category 4 hurricane in June.
Yeah, correct.
In June. Right? On record, every year that we have is hotter than the year before. And it's predicted that the following year going to be hotter. Right? One of the reasons I believe that the system developed as quickly as it did and as forcefully as it did is because the seas are warmer.
Hashtag global warming, not real.
I'm just saying that we have to be mindful. We have to be mindful that we, as Trinbagonians, going to be subject to realities that we would not have been subject to before.
Hashtag the harp is the harp.
we have to be a little more diligent, a little more responsible. And personally, I think we need to be a lot more reverent in prayer. Because the way that this particular system that Beryl operated, while I am not diminishing the damage that it did where it did damage, I do have to acknowledge that it could, the way that that particular system, it seemed to almost thread its way between islands as much as possible. There was even a remarkable observation where it dropped from a Cat 4 to a Category 3 very, very briefly Sunday night, early Monday morning. I don't care what nobody else have to say. I thank God that this thing was not as bad as it could have been. A little bit north, a little bit south. We have to be better prepared. Iran, at the stroke of midnight, or just on the cusp of midnight, Afghanistan defeated Australia. And I too felt a wobble and realized that, all right, this one have a little kick to it. There were, if I'm not mistaken, over 20 aftershocks. Believe it or not, on Sunday night, early Monday morning, there was another earthquake.
At 3.7 or something like that.
All right? So it occurred to me that based on where I'm living, the flooding is nowhere near the intensity that other parts of Trinidad and Tobago would experience. But I started wondering, might it be in my best interest to get a sandbag or two? We have a couple of cases of water, we have flashlights, we have medical kits, etc. But am I prepared to be stuck in this space for days? Absent running water, absent electricity. Our modern version of getting ready is making sure that your phone charge. You know, you have things from the last time that you didn't use, so you figure, well, you're going to be all right. I think this is as much of a wake-up call as we could possibly get.
I could add to the list of the modern preparedness.
Sure, go for it.
Make sure your phone charge.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you're charging your portable charger.
Mm-hmm. Your
Charge.
bank. Mm-hmm.
Your bank. Yeah, thank you very much. Make sure your power bank charge.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure your laptop and your tablet charge.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you have alcohol, ice, and chaser.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you have some tuna and some canned food.
Right.
And I'm going about this in order
Of
what I've been seeing.
Yeah, what our priorities have been. Mm-hmm.
Make sure you have some tuna and some canned food. Make sure you have KFC buy and stock up there, so you won't have to cook. Or whatever your choice of food is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the local flavor.
Right, well, you know that. Make sure you have 2-3 bucket full up.
Mm-hmm.
And last but certainly not least, secure your documents.
Right.
I keep saying it, huh?
Yeah.
We both Ricardo and I just admitted we had our own personal mishaps from last week Tuesday. In terms of, do you went and drop and cover and hold on?
No.
Exactly. But that's where it's supposed to do in an earthquake.
Mm-hmm. I was in my living room, though. I had no idea where I could have covered if one was to seek coverage.
Good point, because me too. I was in the only place I had was under the dining room table, and yeah. But anyway, but really and truly, we just admitted on our own that we had our moment last week with the earthquake, and we felt a hint of unpreparedness. Mm-hmm. Now, we're not saying, take it, as the kids would say, take it thus and go and build a preparedness kit. But make sure you have at least 2-3 cases of water at home. If you, and I say these things if you are in a position to do so.
Right.
Have 2-3 cases of water. You don't need to fill the bucket now, but have 2-3 clean buckets.
Mm-hmm.
Not the one that is for cement and when you're doing housework, huh?
Right.
Clean buckets to store water.
Drinking water.
Drinking water. Thank you very much.
Water you could use to for hygienic purposes.
Exactly. As long as it's a bean and thing. Make sure your flashlights, if you have flashlights, if you don't have flashlights, please procure a flashlight. But make sure you have batteries for these things.
Yeah. And stop taking emergency batteries to put in your video game controllers and in your AC remote. And
hey, brother, man, you're talking, you're buffing me there.
No, I just saying, because when you need 4 batteries to power the thing, and when you look good, you add 3, because you take one and you put it in the TV remote.
Yeah, boy.
Come on.
Right? Make sure that your documents, your certificates, your passport, your birth paper, all these things are stored. If you don't have a safe at home, make sure that at least stored in something plastic. So if it gets wet, it wets the plastic. Because God alone knows the ease of doing business in Trinidad and Tobago is the best. So you could go and get your birth paper back tomorrow.
Deplorable.
Anywho.
That's not what we're talking about today.
Right? And
I saw a very interesting tip. Yeah, go ahead.
Last on my list, and certainly not least, make sure that your family members or who you live with is aware of an evacuation plan.
Right.
Not we gonna meet by the light. Nah. We don't want to hear that. If this is the case and so by so is blocked, we go in there. If so by so is not available, we go in so. Sort that out. And last but certainly not least, I didn't want to bring this one in because this is something that I still am not able to do. Floods ain't no joke. I'm not saying find flood water and go and swim in it. Don't try to be Michael Phelps in a okay, sucks, let me keep it local, be on whack. Don't try to be George Bovell in floodwaters. But at least know how to save yourself. I say in here.
All right.
Because water could come sweeping and gushing and just take you away. As I saw on the 33-mile marker on the Blanchishes Arima Old Road. Right? Just at least be prepared to if you can't swim, at least be able to save yourself to some extent.
Yeah, I want there was an observation that somebody made on one of those, preparation posts. Have some styrofoam equipment. As much as I'm sorry, okay, not styrofoam, disposable.
Thank you.
I did not we don't have styrofoam life, but have some disposable
thank you.
Cups and plates, etc., utensils, because you also don't want to have to use the drinking water that you might have saved to do dishes.
Exactly.
Right? You might want to get some wet naps and that type of thing, because you might have a cowboy instead of doing the full bathe and change. Right? Pets, please secure your animals. And secure your pets don't mean make sure the chain good. Right? Bring them inside if possible. Take them with you if you are evacuating. Right? It is very discomforting for first responders and for agents of rescue to have to be wading through floodwaters and watching pets who could not escape the environment. Right? In terms of being on the road, as Aaron mentioned, that Blanchishes Road, be mindful of light poles, trees, etc. Right? These things do fall. They do fall on vehicles as well. So it's one of the reasons that shelter in place is one of the things that I advocate. In terms of being mobile, do not attempt to drive through floodwaters. We have to say it because every year some 36 ends up circulating on social media for driving or attempting to drive through floodwaters and failing?
I think this is also an opportune moment to bring this up as we're talking about nature, natural disasters and things like that.
The P could I be for preparedness, you know?
I have seen persons clamor for the government to install these nettings in drains and to dredge all the rivers and all these different things, right? Dredging a river can only help so much. Okay, if you dredge it and it's full with old washing machine and fridge, it could still back up. Don't litter. Them big appliances. Watch night have people driving around buying or just picking up scrap iron.
What about contacting your city
Well,
or your regional?
I was going to that after.
I need to take long to read some of these points, you know.
No, I have a purpose, but I didn't bring that one up.
He was building up. All right.
Because there are times when those large waste disposal systems within the city take long. So I was saying, as if you see a man buying scrap iron or battery buying, let them take it away. Because the responsibility of discarding is yours. It's not because they didn't dredge the river. If it had 36 fridge in it, you don't feel that going and back it up?
Old box spring mattress and all kind of thing.
If everybody is to throw a bottle of water out the car every day, all 1.5 million a week, throw a bottle of water out the car every day, you don't feel that going and clog up a drain? Stop trying to pass the responsibility for the flooding to the government and the corporations. Take some level of responsibility to keep a clean scene. That bag of bags that you have in your kitchen, take one of them bags and put it in your car. And when you have something to throw away, put it in the bag. And when the bag full, you know what you have to do? Find a garbage bin or a dumpster to put that bag in. Don't just rest it on the side of the road. With that being said, I want to send congratulations out to the two newly formed boroughs in Trinidad and Tobago, Siparia or Siparia, and Diego Martin.
Well, congratulations.
All right.
To the two newly formed boroughs.
I hope you all, because I think the benefit of being a borough is additional funding. I hope you all use those funds wisely and allocate them where proper services are needed.
Right.
Like waste disposal.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to wait 3 weeks or 4 weeks for a truck to pass in my area to pick up some grass.
Yeah. Yeah, we have some things to work on. My word.
As we're talking about things to work on, we want to pass on congratulations as well to all the children that would have wrote the SEA exam. Right? Because I know every year following the SEA exam, there's a social uproar about the exam as a whole. Not just the results of it, but the need for an exam. And Ricardo would have forwarded to me. Is forwarded would be the word or forwarded it?
No, forwarded it.
Forwarded it.
Yeah, forwarded it.
Yeah, that's why that is why numbers is my thing.
It's forward and then forwarded. And if you forward something that was forwarded, you had to add a ED on the end. So it's now forwarded it.
Thank you. That is why numbers is my forte. Right? But Ricardo would have forwarded something to me, I think it was over this weekend. A clip on social media by a friend of ours and a past guest, Kivo, where he spoke of the SEA platform and the SEA exam. And I have my views on it, Ricardo has his views on it, and I think it's something that we want to spend some time tonight discussing?
Yeah, well, my issue is that we feel the only bright bulb is LED, lawyer, engineer, doctor. We fail to recognize the varying forms of intelligence that our children express. We fail to recognize the different ways in which each individual is gifted. And thus we fail to prepare them properly to maximize and exercise these gifts. We leave a significant portion of the population feeling rejected because the way that their gift expresses is not celebrated in the same fashion. Or even if it is celebrated, it is not respected. Because they could celebrate something and not respect it. Everybody does line up to spend the money to go cinema and go party and go concert and spend the money on entertainment, and will be some of the first to ask a child if to show that is what they want to do when they decide they want to study it. Right? I have concerns, as many citizens do, about this format of this standardized testing that leaves children with the reading, writing, arithmetic mentality, where if they do not excel in those three forms of academic expression, then they are, I don't want to say discarded, but definitely sidetracked. When I saw an article that stated that there was a 1.42% of the children who wrote the SEA 2024 that scored over 90%. 1.42% of the kids, of the 18,000 plus children who wrote SEA.
Oh, thank you very much for the the aligning of a total number and the percentage, because lo and behold, the next part I was gonna say is we hear a lot of these complaints, but we don't have a base number to justify them.
Yeah. Right.
So thank you very much for bringing a base number for me.
Yeah, no worries, man. I know numbers be your thing. And 1.42% scored over 90%. It means that for every 100 children who write the SEA, 1.5 know 90% of the work. 1.4 now, round up. Right?
No, let me go a little even bigger than that. Of the 18,000 children that wrote the exam, 256 would have scored over 90%.
Over 90. Now, I believe there's some issue with the scoring structure, which suggests that there's a deduction of marks as opposed to just failing to attain them by answering or not answering accordingly.
Also, we're still using our bell curve in 2024.
That's why I hear it. I can't confirm it. I just present it as a possibility because it was presented to me. Of greater concern is that half of the kids, if I'm not mistaken, half of the kids score less than 30%. I'll have a look for the article.
Yeah.
Right? But it was a sizable number. We have an education system that is failing to adequately academically prepare these kids and is still being shuttled through the system. Now, while that is an issue in itself, I want to draw reference to the fact that at the end of Common Entrance as an examination form, and upon the introduction of SEA, the average number of students writing Common Entrance was something like 29 to 31,000 students. And by 2011, the number of kids who were writing SEA was down to maybe 22 or 23,000. There are a number of factors that would contribute to the drop to the decrease in the number of students who write in this particular school leaving exam. kids aren't being pushed through, they aren't being promoted and forced to repeat, they are being held back. That's one. Secondly, there's an increasing dropout rate of students, even within the primary school level. Thirdly, because it's not all doom and gloom, there's a growing homeschooling community in Trinidad and Tobago. So a lot of people are opting out of the public school system. Now, it's one of the things that I want to dedicate some time to investigating.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
If even children are being homeschooled, don't they have to write SEA or something else?
Right. And that's why I'm saying this is something I want to dedicate maybe even a season of the living room to. Right, in terms of investigating the education system in Trinidad and Tobago. Because even though you are homeschooled, you still have to be registered as homeschooling. You as a parent have to register a student as, all right, this is a homeschooling family. And there's still curriculum, right? There's still expectations by the Ministry of Education that you're going to afford your child a reasonable educational opportunity. So there are standards. That's standard? Yeah, there are standards that have to be met. I don't know if it means you get to decide when your child writes this exam. I don't know if it means that instead of going through the SCA and then GCE, CAPE, whatever they're calling it now, levels, you could just opt to prepare your kids for SATs. I'm not sure, but there's a lot that I want to investigate about what is happening within our education system, particularly with the K through 12 generation. Right, that would be the kindergarten to 12 years old bracket, also known as elementary in local terms, also known as primary school education.
My next question, and this is not related to those factors there. Could we take into consideration, has there been a decline in the number of births?
That is also a significant contributor because more people having less children, right? Which technically means less people having less children. So we're seeing instead of families having 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 siblings, you're getting 3, 2 and 1 and none. Right? We have a rise in what we call pet parents, people who they're making sure and they're minding pets.
They're buying a dog.
Right? Various kinds of pets. What I'm saying is that we have to start looking very, very seriously at how these things are impacting the environments that our kids are subject to. Because back in the day, you would have had problems with overcrowding in classrooms. Now you have situations where there are schools that are underpopulated. 60 students in an entire community school. Right? Is it that parents are opting to send the kids to the urban school centers and to the private schools and leaving certain schools underpopulated and maybe even underfunded and understaffed? What I'm saying is I want to take a more comprehensive look at what is happening with our education system, because we can't be talking about the youths and the youths and the youths and the youths and then we ignoring what is probably one of the biggest slices of youth development cake. Okay, I could say youth development pie. But
you're feeling for cake.
I just realized how long I eat cake. I'm feeling for cake. And by how long, I probably mean a week. But we'll move on from that. So Aaron, I don't know if you'll indulge me over the next season of the living room. That, normally we have different focuses: men's health, mental health, economics, politics, ethics, those types of things. Health on the whole. Culture. And I want to add education, and not just interview a teacher. I mean, like we take a comprehensive look at what is happening in our education system in Trinidad and Tobago, because it's not enough to say it's not working. And of course, there are people who trained to investigate these things and, more advanced in academia. Right? There are entire ministries dedicated to youth development and education and so on and so forth. But I've noticed that people who work within ministries have a reluctance to have certain conversations. So we're going to have the conversations, and if it means we have to do some of the investigation, well then so be it.
And now I have been reaching out to persons, particularly with the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service, to try to get them in to the living room for interviews. Because I honestly, and I'll touch back to the education system after this point. I must commend the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service and the Ministry of Social Development for constantly putting out those programs that they do.
Mm-hmm.
The educational programs, the vocational programs. Because I myself have signed up for programs through these ministries, and they are excellent programs.
Mm-hmm.
But what those programs do is that takes away from, as Ricardo says, the light bulb education system.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends who have learned plumbing, electrical, sewing, barbering, event management, many of the unconventional fields of education, as we would call them,
Mm-hmm.
and make a living in them. So there are the programs. And for some reason, as Ricardo said, I don't know why they are afraid to come on air to discuss these programs. But you know what? If they don't want to come, I will tell them, send the brochure for me and I go talk about it. We go talk about it here.
Yeah.
Because there's a program that my mother told me about yesterday called Fuse.
Fuse, is it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With TNTech and the Ministry of Youth Service, Youth Development. Yeah. A electrical program. I have a partner, I think you know him, Cardo, the Duncan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Duncan went and learned tiling. He learned plumbing. He learned electrical through the Ministry of Social Development.
All right.
And that is how I think he learned auto mechanics too. And that is how he makes a living now.
Yeah.
Through the things he learned through those ministries. So we're talking about the adults there.
Yeah.
But now let me dive back down to the children. Last week, Wednesday, I hosted a graduation for the Ruth Cowdery Kindergarten. And I must say, I was pleasantly surprised. Firstly, to see the number of fathers which were there.
Boom.
I'm not gonna lie. 10 children graduated, and I saw 9 fathers there.
Yeah, man.
And for me, that is something that we shouldn't be applauding, huh?
No. Applaud it.
But
Because when
it's
it
something that
happened,
it's something that I was happy to see.
yeah.
And as the host, I tried my best to just keep the program flowing, because you know that's how I do when I host things.
Mm-hmm.
My job is not for me to come and talk there. My job is to keep the program flowing.
That's
But
why
just
because I talk. I talk. I will let me edify you. Let me edificate this trend and the parents.
But just before the program ended, I commended the parents, because let's face it, and this is another problem within the education system. The work that is being sent home as homework and projects, they are not just for the children. They are for the parents and the village that supports that child. So if that child doesn't have a village supporting them, they are already at a disadvantage.
Right.
That's the first thing. So I applauded the parents for that. Secondly, I asked the parents to not allow the LED education mentality to take control. If your child comes to you at the age of 10 and says, "Mommy, I know what I want to do. I want to be a videographer." By all means, support that dream. I'm not telling you to take the child out of school and send them to do videography, yeah? Because you have to at least understand basic maths and English. But if they want to sign up for short courses, you don't need to go high at Lime every year. Sacrifice the fat for the future of your child.
It's like you try a big stone for somebody there, boy.
Really?
I mean, you just single out Higher Lime and say, Forget our feds.
No, I just know that's the most expensive ticket for the season.
All right. Okay. Cool. I hear you.
Right? Forget the Fed for the future of your child.
Mm-hmm.
I also said to them, I understand now that physical things, are the way to express love. But let's express love to our children, not just by giving them the things that we didn't have, but by instilling in them the values that we learned. Manners. Talking the non-tangible things before I get into the angle that Ricardo went with the decline in the results at the testing level. But showing up for your children, supporting your children in their dreams, and also teaching them morals and values are three important foundation blocks which we must instill. Do I think that the SEA system is an archaic one? Yes. Do I think that we need to be pioneers in forging a change in how we test children to progress? Yes. Do I think that we should focus on teaching children about our country and our culture from a young age? Yes. But you know what we need to do that, Ricardo? We need to train the teachers as well. We can't just expect new results or uptick in standards if the teachers are still operating on our old system. So when we do have these conversations, that is one of the things that I want to put to the forefront. We need to teach these teachers to do better. We need to teach these teachers to be able to teach children that have educational issues, children that are on the spectrum, understanding what the spectrum is. These are real issues, you know, and I don't know how much of us take these things into consideration, because the child that may be giving trouble in class may not just be given trouble because they're restless enough. They could be given trouble because they have ADHD, they're dyslexic, they are on the autism spectrum, and teachers don't know how to address these issues. But then again, maybe it's because the testing system does not allow children who suffer from these I don't want to call them disabilities, but suffer from these issues to be able to properly sit an exam.
Yeah, I like using terms like process information differently.
Oh, right. But what about continuous assessment? Because let's face it, and it may be difficult for me to speak to primary school to this, because I am far removed from it. So I don't know what the curriculum is. But I know maths and English, science, social studies, they are staples, I think.
Yeah, but SEA is just the reading, writing, and the...
I'm not going to say that. However, SEA is composition.
Maths, English, and creative writing.
Right, composition. What we would have called composition then? Do you remember that subject, Ricardo?
Yeah, I mean...
Right. Them three subjects, you waging a child's progress to the next educational level on three subjects, when throughout his entire tutelage of primary school, sorry, not his, my bad, throughout their tutelage in primary school, he was teaching them.
Well, you could have just say his or who.
So my bad.
Anyway.
You're teaching them 8 different things, but testing them on 3.
Right.
My vote is from standards 3 to 5. And let's not forget, before standard 3, and they have national tests every year, I think. From standard 3 to 5, we do continuous assessment. See the progress of a child over a time period, and then place them accordingly.
That way, even if you
Or-
have a bad testing day, you have a pattern.
You know what it is? You have a true graph.
Right.
Not bell curve, like what is used for CXC marks.
Mhm.
You have a true graph of progress over time. So one dip to determine,
Right.
because there's something called exam anxiety. I myself suffer from it at times as a big hardback man.
Mhm.
So I could imagine an 11-year-old that processing emotions that they don't even know how to deal with.
And all you're hearing for the past 2 years is that day is the most important day of your life so far.
Right? And here now, the amount of important days you just have in your life. SE, CXE, your graduation, your driving test, CAPE if you choose to do so, university exams, the birth of your first child if you choose to have children, your wedding day. There are so many important days within your life. Let me not just focus on the first one now. I don't know how to word the message because again, I am not in a position to have a conversation, and there's a tricky part. I don't even know how to have that conversation with somebody else's child.
Right.
Far more when I have a child. But what I'm saying is, don't heap pressure on that one day. We always say, tell your children before they write the exam, hey, I'm proud of you. Whatever happens here, I am proud of you. Because you want to reinforce to them that yes, it may be an important day, but you are proud of them regardless.
I agree with a lot of what you said. I disagree with some of what you said. Right.
It wouldn't be you if you didn't disagree to some point.
Hey, at the end of the day, sandpaper supposed to oppose. That's why I just polish it on. I believe that a person has two important days in their life. The day that they're born and the day that they figure out why. And those could be the second one could be any day that you wake up with God life in your lungs. I try to treat each day as if it has significance. Now, in terms of certain events having value or more perceived value than others, perchance. But I also believe that life is a tapestry of interwoven threads, and each of us walks a different walk, has a different path, and will fulfill different checkpoints. Out of that list you call it, Aaron, there are people who have magnificent, fulfilling lives without ticking any of those boxes. Right? So I recognize your examples, but I also don't want to alienate the people who do have the checklist style life. Right? Your value as a person is not delegated to the big days and the big things. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves and each other as a society in very, very performative and demonstrative ways. You could be the worst. You could be the worst of the worst. But if you have a big shot title, you just get blind. Or if you have money, you'll get blind. Or if you're particularly good looking or athletic or talented, you'll get blind. Right? I think we have a little bit too much of a focus on celebrating significance as opposed to consistency. What I want to know is if I do get a good work, pass my exams, have children, I didn't hit the important days? No, come on. I want you to, even within this this moment of this conversation of epiphany, to shake that mentality off, because we still propagating this box like thinking. There are contributions that we make to society that are completely outside of something that we could recognize or celebrate. we talk about Trinidad and Tobago and littering being an issue. We talking about pride in our environments. We talking about, patriotism and ethics and all of these things. None of these things are celebrated by magnanimous moments. I want us to focus less on the checkpoints and more on the culture, more on the mindset, more on the environments, more on the motivation behind your behavior as opposed to the expression of it. I want us as a people to take pride in the normal days. Your child come home from school and your head again trouble, and that day is not the defining day for the rest of their life. Your child come home from school and they do well, and that day is not the defining day for the rest of their life. Your child being told that they are very well mannered might be the more important defining day for the rest of their life, but that they're very helpful. What I'm saying is there are events that we believe have significance, and they don't really do so much in terms of the formative moments of our life as we would think. Because I know men who get married 3 times already. Right? These most important days of our lives, sometimes they have an important day and a horrible season. A local colloquialism for that is that, not even local, but a good colloquialism for that is that plenty of people getting married for the wedding and not for the marriage. What I'm saying is that the checkpoint moments, great, celebrate, recognize, all well and good. But what is the culture? What is the consistency? What is the motivation? What is the character that is expressed in between those moments? Is your child a really hard worker who has performance anxiety? Is your child funny and supportive and helpful and loving and caring and has trouble stringing words together? What I mean is, there are so many different ways for magnificence to express itself that we have to get past not just the SEA mindset, but we have to get past the, well, you get a good work so you get through. Because you could get a good work and be a horrible, horrible co-worker or manager or employee or entrepreneur. What I mean is we have to move away from the, well, hey, boy, you buy a new car, but success. And that have nothing to do with the satisfaction that your life actually giving you or the value that you're adding to systems. SEA is not a problem. SEA is a symptom. We have parents who pressure their kids into performance that if they were to be on the receiving end of that as adults in their work environments, they would leave. There are teachers who don't want they don't want to reflect poorly, so they continue this pressure. There are some who recognize it for what it is and do their best to shepherd the children through the system as productively and positively as possible. All I'm saying is that the checkpoints, great, but what is the culture? What is the character? What is the consistency? Because that is what has changed things. So, your kid did or did not pass to the school that you wanted them to pass for. Okay. Are you going to be a supportive, encouraging parent? Are they going to grow up in a household that recognizes that success expresses differently? Are you going to be the parent who didn't post anything at all because they didn't get the result they wanted, but when they do well, you want to run a banner across your social media? Kids not dumb. They recognize what it is you're not telling them by the way that you behave, by the things that you do, by the things that you don't do. Let me look at the character a little bit now. Let me look at the character a little bit and stop putting so much pressure on people to perform. I'm not saying performance is not important, because I don't care if you're the nicest politician in the world and you're not doing your job. But what I'm saying is, in terms of the formative years, man, we'll have a lot more satisfied and rewarding citizens if we develop character, consistency, and culture. Oh, and before we look to wrap up, because I know how long we have again in a year and I don't know what time we start. I definitely want to correct something I said earlier. The percentage of kids who scored under 30 is 14.39%. 1 in every 6.5, 1 in every 7 kids scored less than 30%. There's a number here that scored over 50%. That is 57.91%. That means 42%. 42% scored less than half. 42% of the 18,000 kids who passed through this particular exam scored less than 50%. It is not a reflection of how capable our kids are. So we had to do the work outside of the exam to continue to develop and encourage the capabilities. Otherwise, we're going into this next season with a sense of failure, as opposed to a sense of potential and opportunity. So yeah. But more dry, but
I realize that. Now, I know we really pressed for time, but anyway, we could pick that back up next week. Mr. Desmond is back up next. He's up next with the big band. Right? Just be prepared now, Leah, please. Be prepared. Be prepared for the unfortunate disasters which may come ahead within this hurricane season. Because if we just in June and July now, and we already had a category 4, we still have 5 months to go.
yeah, right.
Right? Be prepared for a changing of the guard in terms of the education that is going to be afforded to children.
Mm-hmm.
And the educational opportunities that will be afforded to children. Because just how you may think a lawyer, engineer, or doctor is successful, the next pan man, the next operatic singer, could be just as successful, even more.
Hey, Shaka Hislop, as our goalkeeper, who is also our literal rocket scientist, right? We don't have to produce one-dimensional offspring.
Right?
All right.
Be prepared as well to take some personal responsibility to ensure that our environment is in a better place. I haven't said it in a while as we end the program, but I will say it tonight. Stop use styrofoam.
Oh, all right, now I meant disposable. I meant disposable.
Oh no, that wasn't meant at you.
I know, but still, I take my personal responsibility.
Right? Stop use styrofoam now, yeah. And lastly, as I close, and I'm going to be saying this every time now, I know I tell you that love is the currency, so spend some today. Tell somebody that you love them before you go and sleep tonight. With that being said, I am DJ Aaron 868. I remind you each and every time that culture is my code.
Well, I am Ricardo Mitchell, the social sage on the global stage. Thank you, listeners and viewers, for putting up with our monologues this evening. We didn't have as much of the back and forth banter, but these are serious topics. These are serious topics. These are literally, in some cases, life and death, and for others, this is formative stuff. How you deal with this particular season is going to say a lot to your kids, to your wards, and they are probably going to end up reflecting this season in different ways for the rest of their lives. Right? Nobody perfect, but that don't mean that we can't at least try to manage these things a little better than we currently do. Right? So, this is Ricardo Mitchell, social stage on the global stage. Thank you for joining us in the living room. Remember, guys, the hourglass is opaque. We don't know how much time remains. So whatever you're doing, be good and stay safe. Right? Mr. Desmond is up next with the big band.
Correct.
Right?
Take it away, Dazzle.